Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Mid-American Conference press conference with Commissioner Dr. John Steinbrecher. Just a few things before we get started. Following Commissioner Steinbrecher's opening statement, there will be a time for questions. If you have something you would like to ask, please hit your raise hand button. I will call on you and open your microphone so that you may ask that question. You will have the opportunity for one follow-up question as well. We'll try to get to as many questions as possible through this press conference. Also, if you could please make sure your name is listed on Zoom rather than just a phone number, that would really help. If you could also state your name and affiliation prior to asking your question, it would be much appreciated. This press conference will be recorded. If you should have any further media inquiries, please feel free to contact myself at jguy@mac-sports.com. I will now turn it over to Commissioner Steinbrecher.
Well, thank you for joining us on short notice. And I am certain that in the future, when people look back at the year 2020, for intercollegiate athletics, it will be remembered as Annus Horribilis, which is Latin for horrible year. I am a former student athlete, a former college football player and tennis player, and I make today's announcement in that respect, alongside proudly serving as commissioner of a conference of 12 great institutions that represent thousands of student athletes and a fan base that is passionate about action. I'm announcing that by a unanimous vote of the Mid-American Conference's Council of Presidents meeting earlier today, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic across the United States and around the world and its effect on student athletes, the conference will postpone the fall seasons in the sports of men's and women's cross country, field hockey, football, men's and women's soccer, and women's volleyball. It is the intention of the membership to provide competitive opportunities for the student athletes in these sports during the spring semester of 2021. This decision was not made lightly, nor without significant contemplation and conversation over the past weeks, involving numerous meetings with groups including the Council of Directors of Athletics, Conference Medical Advisory Panel, the Conference Sports Medicine Group, and the Council of Presidents, among others. It included reviewing information from the NCAA and its COVID-19 task force, the World Health Organization, the Centers for Disease Control, state and local boards of health, as well as state governmental mandates. This decision is grounded in the core values of the conference that prioritize student athlete well-being. Clearly, we are charting a conservative path, and it is one that has been recommended by our medical advisory group. There are simply too many unknowns for us to put our student athletes in situations that are not clearly understood. We have traditionally been a leader on student athlete well-being issues. This has not been an easy decision, but for the Mid-American Conference, it is the right decision. When I had to shut down our basketball tournament in March, I was asked how I felt, and I gave a very stiff answer. I said I didn't feel, I just worked the issue. And I said that because I was unsure if I let my emotional wall down, that I would be able to stay composed. And today I'm in the same place. This is simply a miserable decision. It is a decision that affects roughly 2,500 student athletes who live for the moment to compete. Those opportunities and moments are fleeting, and our student athletes have a limited window in which to showcase their talent, their passion, and their drive for excellence. I am heartbroken we are in this place. However, I take comfort, and I want to give assurance to our student athletes, coaches, and fans that we will make every effort to provide competitive opportunities in the spring. Today's decision affects fall sports. No decisions have been made regarding winter sports. I can only hope that events transpire that permit us to move forward as scheduled. And that starts with the successful opening of the fall semester on our campuses. I will be glad to answer your questions.
Again, if you have a question for Commissioner Steinbrecher, please hit the raise hand button. Okay, we will go to Rachel Lindsay. Rachel, your microphone is open.
John, this is obviously going to be a financial hit for the Max athletic programs as well. What's this going to cost? Was that taken into consideration as well in this decision?
Well, it would be naive to say that you don't give thought and consideration to what the final financial ramifications of any decision are, but this was a health and well-being decision first and foremost. As we sit here today, we don't know what this will mean financially. It will depend how the rest of the fall plays out. It will depend upon if we're able to do some things in the spring. So that's going to be an issue that we'll just have to follow. There are no definitive answers today.
And also, I have a follow-up question. Were all of the MAC presidents on board with this decision, or was there some resistance among the higher-ups?
This was a unanimous decision.
Okay.
This is a collective decision and a unified decision of the Mid-American Conference. It's a bitter one, but we believe it's the right one based on the medical advice we've been getting from our medical advisory board.
Next, we will go to Dennis Dodd. Your microphone is open.
Okay, thanks, John, for doing this. Based on the information you got from your health experts, what specifically was it that didn't allow you to go on?
They are just uncomfortable with putting the student athletes in positions that, I mean, we would differentiate what the student athletes would experience in a competitive area as opposed to what a student's going to be involved in going to class. They're different. It's more risk, and there's risks that aren't completely, or there's things we just don't completely understand about this virus at this point. You know, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not in position to really enunciate all of those things. However, we're comfortable that we're making the right decision for intercollegiate athletics.
What impact would there have been, you know, with the return of students this month? Was that taken into account? You know, in other words, there could be further outbreaks there.
Well, who knows what the future holds, right? And we're all, I know our presidents are working hard and their staffs and those across the country. We're hopeful that we can get our campuses open and the students back in the classroom and the faculty back in the classroom, those things, and they all have plans. And they've been thoughtful in what they've drawn out so that they can put all those people in the best position to move forward with that. So yeah, you give consideration to that, and that's where we differentiate a little bit of what you see from what the NBA is doing and several others where they've been able to craft these really tight bubbles. That's not the world we live in on our college campuses and in intercollegiate athletics.
Next, we'll hear from Heather Dinich. I believe your microphone's open, Heather.
John, a lot of football players throughout the country have been expressing their concerns through different leagues. I was wondering how much of that influenced the president's decisions and what kind of reaction, if any, you guys have heard from student athletes, although I realize it's only been announced.
Well, all of our athletic directors and so on have been having conversations with their coaches and student athletes. We're certainly all aware of the articles we've been reading and the commentary that's come with that. So lots of data points around that. At the end of the day, I keep coming back to the advice we're getting from our medical advisors. What I expect we will see is there's going to be a large number of student athletes who are going to be bitterly disappointed they would play. And there will be some athletes we were already seeing, some in our conference and some across the country of student athletes who were going to opt out. And then just a number of students who the anxiety of just not completely understanding if we were going to be moving forward or not was part of the issue. And so I expect an array of reactions. But again, I will keep going back to we're charting a course based on the best advice we've been given.
And then just a quick follow-up, if I may. Have you gotten any reaction or talked with your FBS conference commissioner peers about this? And do you expect any type of snowball from them in reaction to what you guys did?
You know, we've had an array of conversations over the past weeks and months. I have sent out an email in advance just before this press conference to make sure they were aware of the actions we were taking. Beyond that, it's been too early to gauge any comment.
Next, here, Chris Vanini. Chris, your microphone is open.
Hi, John. Thanks for the time. Was there any pressure from anybody to hold off on making this decision to be the first one, or did that not play any role?
Can you state that again, please?
Hi. Was there anybody who kind of didn't want to be the first league to go? Did you guys want to wait for somebody else, or was this decision just solely up to you?
You know, we talked about a lot of issues, and we talked about different options, an array of things, and that's part of what took so long with this conversation, was taking the time to give consideration across the board. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we're going to chart the course that we think it's the right one for us. We believe that as a league, we've taken a leadership stance on an array of student-athlete related issues, whether it's mental health, diversity, equity, inclusion, bringing our student athletes into our governance system, and so on. And so, again, I relate it back to we're trying to make the right decisions for our student athletes based on the information we have.
Ralph Russo, your microphone should be open. You may be on mute.
Sorry, John. Thanks for doing this. And could you have foreseen this earlier in the week? How close were the presidents to making a decision to play in the fall? Because there certainly seemed to be a lot of reports that you were getting close to putting out a schedule.
Yeah. Well, again, we had an array. I had made known, and I think it was well known, that we were into our conversations of what course of action we were going to take. And I was not sure, I had no certainty of how that would play out. And I would say that as I went into, we had a president's meeting on Thursday, and because of time constraints, couldn't conclude our business. I came in today's meeting in a similar place. Thought it could have gone several different ways. I don't care to lay out all the options, but I think you can probably figure out some permutations. So again, this was a hard decision, but a thoughtful decision.
Okay. Next, Jordan Strack. Jordan, your microphone is open.
Hi, John. First off, what is the financial reality of what you guys are facing right now, and how difficult is that? And what involvement have you had with your TV partners, things like that right now?
Again, I'll go back on the financial end of it. That's to be determined. We need to see what occurs the rest of the year, what occurs whether or not, and again, it's our intention to provide competitive opportunities in the springs and what that brings. So that will play itself out. With regard to our partners, as soon as we got off the meeting with our presidents, I began contacting our partners, our television partners and other partners, and I had been keeping them apprised all along that we were, throughout the course of this week, having meetings, had talked about possible outcomes. And so we wanted to make sure that we were not surprising any of those people whose partnership we truly value.
And then my other question is, what does the timeline look like for the spring? And we're talking conference basketball tournaments and into the spring. Do you have a timeline of how this thing would look?
Yeah. Well, I have developed a working plan for how we will begin to look at moving forward with fall sports into spring. And we'll have a series of working groups that will involve administrators, coaches, student athletes, faculty, athletic training staff, doctors. And they'll be going through a series of things and looking at a series of factors and essentially laying out a full plan for the year 2021 as we try to make determinations on how we do this, how to do it in a safe way. This fall, our presidents will get updates on a monthly report. By mid-fall, hopefully we'll have plans in place that will have been approved. And then somewhere later this fall, whether that's in November, whether it's December, I think the virus will have a big determination on our ability to ultimately say it's a go or no go. At some point, we'll make that determination that we can move forward with these plans.
Tony Paul, your microphone should be open.
Hey, thanks for doing this. I'm just curious, do you believe that you're going to be the first of several conferences to make this decision?
You know, I really don't know. I won't try to judge what other folks are doing. I know we're all in the same place. They all have their advisors. They're going to make judgments based on the information they are receiving. And so I'll leave it to you to ask those questions of them.
Okay, we will. And
oh, sorry about that, Tony. If you raise your hand again, we'll get to you. Next, we'll get to Nick Petrovich. Nick, your microphone is open.
Hi, John. Thank you for doing this. The main concern I've seen from most people in terms of a spring season is how it would affect the 2021 football season. How will you take that into consideration? And do you think there is a way that you could realistically have a spring football season without in some way impacting the next one?
Well, that's why we will have coaches who will be exceptionally helpful in this process. That's why we will involve student athletes, and then we will have medical advisors, and they'll lay out a full 12-month program. But I would remind people, whether it's football or any of our fall sports, they have non-championship segment practice opportunities and competitive opportunities in the spring. They are active during that period of time. And so they'll dig in deep, and I won't prejudge it, but we're going to make our decisions based on can we move forward and do so in a way that is responsive to the health and well-being concerns of the student athletes.
Do you have an idea as to when the spring football season, does it have a hard start date that it would have to start by a certain point?
No decisions on that.
Evan Petzold, your microphone is now open.
Hey, John, I lost you there for a quick second, so I'm sorry if this question's already been asked. But, looking at this decision, why would playing in the spring be more cost effective than playing right now? Like, is that anything to do with like testing or anything like that? Or what's the deal with that?
This decision isn't a financial decision. It's a health and well-being decision. And that's what will continue to be as we move forward.
For sure. And then also looking to, was there ever like a drop dead date to cancel the season, in the fall or when did you guys kind of first float that around? Not sure if there's anything there.
No, there wasn't. It was a matter of continuing to essentially collect data points, and we're coming up on the place where for a number of sports, they were going to begin opening fall camps. And so that really started to drive it. That doesn't mean the decision couldn't have been pushed forward, but we finally came to a place where we felt comfortable as a league moving forward collectively.
Awesome. Thank you.
Go back to Rachel Lindsay. Rachel, your microphone is open.
John, clearly a lot of athletes will be impacted because of this decision. Will they be able to carry their eligibility over to the next school year, or will that apply to the spring season?
Yeah, there's an array of what I would call NCAA rules-related decisions that are going to have to work themselves out. The NCAA Council and other government groups are already aware of those things and are having conversations on that. And so those are decisions that we're going to need to receive from our national governing body here in the hopefully not too distant future so that we can guide our student athletes.
And then a follow-up, Dennis Dodd. Dennis, your microphone is open. Okay.
I lowered my hand. I'm good.
Oh, okay. All right. Sounds good. Thank you. And a follow-up from follow-up from Heather Dinich. Heather, your microphone is open.
Yeah, I understand it was a very difficult decision, but I'm also wondering if there's at all any sense of relief, simply because now you don't have to worry about what might happen if somebody got seriously sick.
You know, Heather, that's a good question. The personal answer, let me start with a personal answer, then we'll go to more of a corporate answer. The personal answer is I'm crushed by this decision. I am so disappointed. Gosh, I'm sorry. It's just crushing that we can't facilitate the opportunities this fall because of circumstances around us. That is just, I'm heartbroken on that. The flip side is I take comfort, and I would say our presidents would take comfort, and I would assume all others, that we're making decisions for the right reasons. And so that's the bottom line of it. And so we'll proceed accordingly.
Thank you.
Justin Feldkamp. Justin, your microphone is open.
Hi there, John. Two questions. One, was there any talk of separating the contact sports versus the contact sports and making decisions separately for each of them, staying or going from the fall to the spring? And then secondly, is it a legitimate theory that you guys can move the moneymaker of football and just put it in the spring? And you guys think that if there's a vaccine and things return to somewhat of a new normal, that you guys can just be as financially successful as a regular fall season pre-pandemic?
Boy, you asked a lot of things there, and I don't know if I didn't write them all down. Again, back to the financial part of it, it's too early to make determinations on that, right? With regard to, we don't know, the virus is going to continue to make decisions for us along the way, and that will inform us as to how we proceed. And so that will continue to be something that we monitor, we watch, and will guide us as we move forward.
Okay.
James Jimenez, your microphone is now open. James, you may be muted if you're on there. All right. Any other questions? for Commissioner Steinbrecher? Please raise your hand. Oh. James, should we try you again here? Oh, hold on. James, your microphone's open. All right, having issues. All right, Evan. Oh, sorry, you're by Brett McMurphy. Brett, your microphone is open.
Hey, John. Did you think this day was going to come eventually? A few weeks ago, obviously, you were very emotional, and what you just said about the student athletes not being able to compete. But did you know, even with all the different financial implications involved and everything else, that ultimately this was going to happen, and you were just hoping somehow, some way it wouldn't happen?
You know, if you told me in March we'd be here today, I would never have believed it. Clearly, over the past several weeks, you're certainly contemplating what some possibilities could be. And so, yeah, you start looking at this as this might be a direction we have to go. Certainly hope that wouldn't be the case, but here we are.
And a follow-up to that, obviously you take into account the student athletes' health and well-being, but because of the fact that a number of conferences have these players that are coming out and speaking and demanding more things, did this, not that it was an easy decision, but did it make it an easier decision to go ahead and not play when the student athletes were making their concerns that vocal?
You know, I don't completely know how to answer that. I keep going back to the fact that we were guided by our medical advisory group. And that, at the end of the day, is really what was the most probably important piece of information that we were dealing with.
Thank you.
One final question here, and we'll go back to Evan. Evan Petzold, your microphone is open.
Hey, just wanted to check on this, and you might have already answered it as well when I lost you for a second. But how do you think this is going to affect, players, and student athletes in the transfer portal and things like that? I mean, do you think there's going to be any kind of a fallback in that regard?
You know what? I'm not going to try to predict that. And we'll just have to see where that goes. Again, we're trying to do everything we can in the best interest of our student athletes. I hope, and based on my interactions with them over the year, that they're having positive experiences, and as a result of that, that they'll continue to be active participants where they're at, but I won't care to predict what that holds.
For sure, thanks.
All right, well, this is for sure the last one. Tony, you came back, and I know we cut you off earlier. So Tony, Paul, your microphone is now open.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Just one thing I've talked to athletic directors about for the past several months is that if this decision were to happen, it could mean, big implications, obviously, within athletic departments. How worried or nervous are you that this could lead to a bunch of, inside athletic departments, people losing their jobs and that type of thing?
Yeah, I don't have any specific information about that. What I would continue to say is we're still going to need to be providing a really vibrant and robust structure for our student athletes so that they can continue in an array of activities. And that will require some people around them, and that's our intent to be doing so. And our institutions will make whatever decisions they might have to make in and around that.
All right, I'd like to thank everyone for joining today's press conference. Again, this press conference was recorded. We will be downloading it, uploading it, and we'll be sending out a link to everyone so that you have access to this. Other than that, appreciate everyone's time, and all the best to you moving forward. Take care.